Hey guys, what's up? This is Pants Art Dragon, and today we'll be playing some of that. And today we'll be doing the top 10 best junglers for solo queue. And in this patch, we know that the Runeglaive got buffed, which makes all AP mages in the jungle better. Well, at least the ones that can make use of the Runeglaive, and there's now a new item called the Sated Devour, which is made for attack speed junglers. As for every other auto attack, it doubles your on hit effect, which actually changes the top 10 junglers a bit and how people are playing solo queue, since some junglers actually got a pretty big buff with this new item. And this is probably the first time where all types of junglers are actually good, and so you'll probably be seeing Devour jungles, Runeglaive, Cinderhulk, and Warrior. Anyways, with all that being said, let's get started. Alright, so first up we have Vi. Okay, so I feel like she's really good just because she can still lock down enemy squishies. And so if you got someone mega fed on an enemy team, let's say it's a Jinx, then you can just ult her, and then your divers and assassins can kill her. And then after, she's pretty good against tanks because her W does maximum % health damage, and it also shreds some of their armor. But the nerfs before, you know, the movement speed and the ulti nerf in the early game, that hurts some of our early game pressure. As, well, movement speed helps you gank more, and 50 damage off her ultimate does kinda hurt. Although I'm pretty sure if you're gonna use your ulti on someone, they're probably gonna die, so I don't think it hurts too much. It's more the movement speed. But movement speed for her in teamfights doesn't really affect her too much since she has her Q for the gap closer and her ultimate. But honestly, if they did revert those nerfs, she'd probably be top 5 or maybe number 6 or something like that. Next up at number 9 is going to be Rengar. Alright, so never played tank Rengar, at least in solo queue. Always want to play him AD Assassin Jungle Rengar, because he is really good at making picks, especially on the enemy squishies. And he's also really good at assassinating the back line, especially when the team fight starts, as enemies probably don't have their cooldowns to peel for their back line. And yeah, you can basically 1v1 their squishies. Just do know that if they do have Zhonya's, then you might have to switch to another target. And also, when you do have your ultimate, it should be an easy free kill for you, and then you just snowball off that from there. And also, people do like to run around the map, you know, alone, so it's easy for Rengar to make picks sometimes. Next up, we're going to have Shyvana. In this patch, she actually got nerfed. There's like 10 less damage at the final rank of her W. So like, there's 70 less damage on her W. And it kind of sucks because I don't think she's really broken with the new Devour, so I don't think it was needed. But yeah, she's really good with the new Sated Devour, as her E and Q have really good synergy with it. You know, reducing the cooldown of Q more, and double proccing the on hit effect from her E, and so now it does 5% of their maximum health every other auto attack. And of course, Twin Bite has synergy with the Devourer too. Talking about Shyvana jungle in general, she does have one of the best clears in the game, as she gets movement speed and has a lot of damage in her kit, which just allows her to, you know, do the jungle really fast, which makes her get the Sated Devour really fast and obviously get the power spike when she does attain it. And when it comes to the mid game, she has so much damage. Like, you got Blade Rune King, her base damage, and then you got the Devour proccing twice, and also her E on hit effect. Although, there are just a few things that I straight up just don't like about her. She really doesn't have any early game pressure because she is not a really good ganker. Until she gets her ultimate and Stalker's Blade, of course, but she's still only really good for overextended people and counter ganks. And also, she doesn't have any CC. I don't really count her ultimate, of course, because it's like a 0.5 second knockback. But that's why she has summoners like Exhaust and Blade Rune King along with the Stalker's Blade. But, you know, the best thing about her is that she farms like a beast. Next up is going to be Gragas. So, in my opinion, I do feel like Gragas is a bit overrated, especially after the nerfs that came to him in patch 5.12. Like, I still think he's good for competitive, but for solo queue, bit overrated. Kind of like how you guys think that I overrate Nunu, but that's just my opinion. But yeah, those nerfs in patch 5.12, it kind of hurt him because not as much sustain, and the slow duration of his Q has been reduced. So obviously for jungle clears, it doesn't really affect it too much, but for ganking and just like overall team fighting, I feel like he doesn't have as much stickiness as he did before. But, I mean, he's still an early game jungler. He has high pressure because of his sustain and like really strong ganks. And his ultimate is really good for splitting up the enemy team. And his W has really good base damage. Just remember though, all of his skills are skill shots, so if you kind of suck at skill shots, don't play him. Especially his ultimate. A good ultimate is like really good in team fights, but I suck at it, and so I make bad ones. Next up is going to be Kayle. Alright, so Kayle gets a super good buff with the Sated Devourer, and her AP ratio on her E gets slightly toned up a bit. But I think a really strong thing about her in this patch is that Raze is like a permaslow on her, since it applies off her E and applies a 40% slow. So like going Devour, Nashers into Rylai Scepter is like really good. You can go the on hit build, but that's like situational. But yeah, in my opinion, she scales very well into the mid game and late game if she can get there. And her early game isn't that bad. She applies a lot of damage and has really good ganks with her Q, having like a 30% slow or something, and lasting for about 3 seconds. And of course her ultimate being really good for when the enemy tries to burst someone out, but then you apply it before they can apply their burst, and well, now they have nothing for your other teammates. Also, she has a heal in her W, which is interesting and super useful in times. Either way, I do feel like she's really strong in this patch. Or I just have high hopes for this champion. Next up is going to be Lee Sin. So nothing's really changed to him. You know, still a good jungler. It's still the same meta. If you're really good at him, then, you know, you're going to carry because you're at the fullest potential with Lee Sin. And he's just really strong on early game, so you can snowball that lead and turn it into a victory. But if you are an average Lee Sin, or maybe an above average Lee Sin like me, there's definitely better champions to play than him at the moment. Next up is going to be Nunu. Okay. Cinder Hulk equals AoE clears. If you have really good AD carry, then you win the game if you can peel for the AD carry, and you're also giving him more buffs. And also just play Nunu by himself, since he's like just a support jungler and has a Sightstone and provides vision for his team, and you know, just does support things. So it is like pretty consistent with him. He may not be a carry jungle, but that doesn't matter because he's more of a team player jungle, and if he plays it like strategically, he can win the game. Next up is going to be Rek'Sai, and what happened to her this patch? Well, they got rid of her knockup radius on her W by 40 range. And what does it mean for this champion? Well, all that really means is that it's harder for her to get an AoE initiation onto the enemy team when in the mid game and late game phase. But for ganks in the early game, not really, because she actually has faster movement speed when she's burrowed underground, so she'll eventually knock up the other person. I also don't really notice this nerf too much when I'm playing Rek'Sai either, but maybe it's because I haven't played her in a while because she's always banned. And of course it doesn't hurt her in the jungle because, well, she's going to knock up all the creeps there still, right? And she still has her tunnels along with her free teleport coming from her ultimate. And she can still peel consistently with her W, knocking up enemies who go for her squishies. But yeah, I don't really notice the nerfs too much, so I still think she's a good champion. Next up is going to be Evelynn. Goddamn, Runeglaive gets buffed, which means Evelynn gets buffed. Want to know a fun fact about Runeglaive? It turns half of her E's damage into magic damage, and that means the Hunting Guys plus Sork Shoes build is back. Building M-Pen on her does tons of fucking damage if you ever tried it, and honestly for solo queue is just so cheap. I think a lot of people in the competitive play are like building her tank right after. Fuck that shit. In solo queue, just build M-Pen and start snowballing in the early game and you'll eventually win the game. Honestly though, the M-Pen build is really strong in my opinion, and like going Warrior and Evelynn right now just seems so insignificant compared to the Runeglaive. Although I wouldn't build full ability power, just kind of go magic penetration or magic damage tank kind of deal with the Zhonya's and Abyssal. And at number 1 is going to be Nidalee. Well, if Nidalee was already top 5 and Runeglaive getting a buff, there's no doubt that Nidalee would be at number 1. Like, I said this before in the last video, I think, but what the Runeglaive does to her is basically makes her ganks more consistent, so she does miss that spear. She always can rely on her Runeglaive proc to hit, and I mean, she would prefer the AP stats, but in this case, her early game is definitely more better. And Lichbane isn't really a bad item on her. It definitely helps her burst when taking people down, and when she's just kiting back in her human form and auto-attacking / throwing spears. I can definitely say right now, Nidalee is the number 1 jungler at the moment. Next up, we're going to be doing some honorable mentions, and first up is going to be Fizz. And with the Runeglaive being buffed, he's a better jungler right now, but I think he's going to be more of a top lane and mid lane. And next up is going to be Pantheon, you know, full AD Pantheon, assassin kind of deal. Kills enemy squishies with his QWE combo, although he has probably the shittiest clears I've ever seen, but that's okay. Then next up is going to be another warrior jungler, Hecarim. So Hecarim does 100% damage to monsters now with his Q, and that's pretty good for helping clearing the jungle. I like him, and I feel like he's pretty decent in the jungle, but I feel like there are better picks than him right now. And next up is going to be Diana, so Runeglaive getting buffed this patch means she's stronger, but I do feel like she is a better solo laner than the jungle right now. But obviously, after level 6, she is really strong and becomes a really great jungler, as her clears are really good and all she really needs is some ganking presence. And honestly, I do feel like right now she's probably more stronger than some of the junglers I listed in the top 10. But I do feel like she is more of a better laner, and that's why she's in honorable mentions. And last up is going to be Master Yi. Okay, so there's a reason why I don't put Master Yi in the top 10, and that is because he is not really that great early game since he has no pressure, and he's not the greatest duelist yet until he gets his power spike, which would be when he gets like Blade of Rune King, level 11, say Devour, etc. So it takes a while for him to get to that level. But when he does get those items, he has a huge power spike because the Sated Devourer has good synergy, and with his Q and E. Apparently it is bugged on his passive though. But yeah, Master Yi plays for the late game and mid game. Hey guys, so thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys did enjoy this video, maybe you enjoy top 5 best mid laners for solo queue, or top 5 best top laners for solo queue. Anyways, I am Panther Dragon, and if you guys ever played Sims 3, you'll remember this fucking awesome tune.
Hipsy, yo!